The story of the Knights Templar begins in the shadow of the Holy Land, during a time when faith and warfare were inseparable and the boundaries between legend and reality blurred. They were born of the Crusades, originally a small band of pious knights sworn to protect pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem. Yet, within decades, this humble brotherhood would transform into an order cloaked in power, secrecy, and whispers of forbidden knowledge. It is a tale that has fascinated scholars, conspiracy theorists, and storytellers alike, not merely because of the wealth they accumulated, but because of the mysteries they carried, mysteries that the centuries have not yet fully revealed. At first glance, the Templars appear as noble warriors, shining armor glinting in the sun, banners fluttering across the arid landscapes of the Levant. Chroniclers describe them as disciplined, devout, and unyielding in battle. They became an unstoppable force during the Crusades, feared by enemies and admired by allies. But beyond the battlefield, they cultivated influence that would ripple far beyond the Holy Land, touching the courts of kings and the vaults of the church. They developed sophisticated banking systems, establishing some of the earliest forms of letters of credit, and their estates stretched across Europe, often hidden behind walls that whispered secrets to those who listened closely. To the common eye, they were knights. To those attuned to the subtler truths, they were guardians of something far greater. Whispers of the Templars' true purpose began almost immediately. Some said they had discovered sacred relics. Others believed they had stumbled upon secret knowledge hidden in ancient texts. Legends tell of the Holy Grail, of relics older than the church itself, of knowledge that could shift the balance of power in the world. Yet, concrete evidence remains elusive. History records the Templars as bankers, warriors, and martyrs of a political purge, but the gaps between the lines of their story hint at something more. What is often overlooked is not just what they did, but what they were protecting. Knowledge and treasures so potent that centuries of kings, popes, and tyrants would go to great lengths to possess or suppress them. The Templars' rise was meteoric. Within a few decades, they controlled wealth rivaling that of European monarchs. Their network of fortified abbeys, strategically placed across France, Spain, and the Holy Land, acted as both military strongholds and secret vaults. Some of these sites are still standing today, silent witnesses to a past filled with unseen movements and hushed exchanges. Travelers and merchants spoke of strange rituals, cryptic symbols carved into stone, and tunnels that led to hidden chambers. To this day, these locations ignite the imagination, inviting speculation about what was truly stored within: gold, sacred relics, manuscripts containing lost knowledge, or perhaps something far stranger. It is the secrecy that fuels the fascination. Unlike other orders of knights, the Templars operated in a deliberate veil of obscurity. Records were scant, deliberately cryptic, and sometimes misleading. Some historians argue that this was merely a practical measure, a way to protect their wealth and operations during turbulent times. But others suggest that secrecy was central to their mission, that the Templars were custodians of knowledge too dangerous or too transformative to be shared openly. Every charter, every ledger, every architectural anomaly becomes a puzzle piece in a larger, hidden narrative, waiting to be decoded by those who dare to question the official story. Perhaps the most tantalizing aspect is what remains unknown. The Templars vanished almost overnight, swept away by political maneuvering and accusations of heresy. Their properties were confiscated, their leaders executed, and yet the legends persist. Where did their wealth go? Which relics disappeared into the shadows of history? Could their influence have persisted through hidden channels, secret societies, or undiscovered manuscripts? The gaps in the historical record are as intriguing as the documented facts, inviting theories that span from the plausible to the fantastical. Each fragment hints at a larger secret, a whisper of a story never fully told. As we begin to unravel the enigma of the Templars, it is essential to hold both curiosity and skepticism in equal measure. This is not merely a story of knights and battles. It is a story of hidden knowledge, of treasures that defy conventional understanding, and of a power that may still echo into our modern world. Every stone, every parchment, and every whispered legend forms part of a tapestry that challenges what we think we know about history itself. It is within these shadows that the whispers of the Grail first emerge, subtle yet insistent, calling us to look closer, to question, and to imagine. The Templars invite us to peer behind the curtain of history, into a world where devotion, power, and mystery intertwine. Their legacy is not just in the battles they fought, but in the secrets they carried, secrets that, even now, stir the imagination and ignite a hunger for discovery. In tracing their story, we are not simply revisiting the past. We are entering a labyrinth of clues, enigmas, and hidden truths. It is here, in this delicate balance between history and legend, between fact and conjecture, that the whispers of the Grail begin to speak, urging us to follow the trail where few dare to tread. The journey we are about to undertake is one of shadow and light, of lost treasures and forbidden knowledge. It is a story that moves beyond medieval Europe into the realms of esoteric mystery, cryptic manuscripts, and prophecies. By the time we reach the heart of the Templar enigma, we will have glimpsed the world as they may have seen it, a world in which every secret holds power and every whisper could change the course of history. This is the story of the Templars, not as we have been told, but as the echoes of history, legend, and forbidden knowledge reveal them to us. The Knights Templar were not merely warriors bound by vows of faith. They were an organization that mastered the delicate balance between power, secrecy, and influence. While their public persona was one of discipline, piety, and martial excellence, the reality behind the ironclad gates of their commanderies was far more complex. They moved quietly through the corridors of medieval politics, wielding influence in ways that few contemporaries could fully comprehend. Their rise was not simply the result of battlefield victories. It was born from strategy, foresight, and a keen understanding of the world's power structures. From the earliest days, the Templars cultivated relationships with monarchs, nobles, and church officials. They were trusted advisors, financiers, and, in some cases, arbiters of disputes. Kings lent them gold, safe passage, and land, while the church granted privileges, exemptions, and authority that few other orders could claim. Their unique combination of religious devotion and worldly acumen allowed them to operate almost like a state within a state. They were knights, yes, but also bankers, diplomats, and guardians of secrets that reached far beyond the boundaries of Europe and the Holy Land. This dual existence, publicly devout, privately influential, sparked curiosity and fear in equal measure. The Templars were often envied for their wealth, which seemed to grow without limit. Their estates were meticulously managed, generating income from farms, vineyards, and trade routes. They established one of the earliest forms of medieval banking, allowing nobles and monarchs to deposit wealth, draw letters of credit, and transfer funds across vast distances without the risk of theft. This financial sophistication was unparalleled for the era and became one of the many reasons why the order's power grew quietly but steadily, almost invisibly. Yet wealth and power alone do not explain the aura of mystery that surrounds the Templars. It was their secretive operations, the hidden nature of their activities, that fueled speculation. Many of their meetings took place behind closed doors, in vaulted chambers beneath churches, or within fortified commanderies. Symbols were etched into stone, coded inscriptions left in manuscripts, and rituals performed that outsiders could scarcely comprehend. Even among other knights and religious orders, The Templars were viewed with a mixture of awe and suspicion. It was said that they knew things no one else could, that they were privy to knowledge too powerful, too dangerous to be spoken aloud. The Templars' influence was not confined to finance and politics. It extended into the realm of knowledge and culture. They collected manuscripts, maps, and artifacts from across Europe and the Levant, preserving works that might have otherwise been lost to time. Some historians suggest that among these collections were texts containing esoteric wisdom, advanced engineering principles, and theological insights suppressed by mainstream authorities. Whether these claims are entirely true or colored by legend, they highlight the perception of the Templars as guardians of secrets, knowledge that, if revealed, could alter the balance of power in ways the world was not prepared to handle. Perhaps most striking was the order's disciplined hierarchy. Unlike other organizations of the time, the Templars were remarkably structured. Each commandery operated under strict rules, and every member knew his duties, oaths, and obligations. Loyalty was absolute, and the enforcement of secrecy was rigorous. This internal discipline allowed the order to survive in a world of constant turmoil, from the shifting allegiances of European courts to the volatile politics of the Crusader states. It also gave them the ability to coordinate complex operations, whether in banking, military campaigns, or the management of hidden treasures. Their strength was not merely in numbers or weapons, but in the seamless cohesion of their organization. The combination of wealth, secrecy, and discipline inevitably attracted scrutiny and envy. Kings and popes alike observed the Templars with a mixture of admiration and apprehension. How could a group of knights wield such influence without appearing as a threat? How did they accumulate fortunes seemingly beyond comprehension? The answers were not simple, and for centuries, speculation filled the gaps left by historical records. Some argued that the Templars had access to ancient secrets, perhaps even the fabled Holy Grail, or that they were intermediaries in a network of knowledge stretching back to lost civilizations. Others maintained a more skeptical view, attributing their success to clever strategy, organization, and a bit of good fortune. Despite the aura of mystery, there is little doubt that the Templars left an indelible mark on medieval society. They were architects of innovation, both in governance and finance, and their presence altered the course of history in subtle but profound ways. Yet it is the hidden aspects of their influence that continue to captivate the imagination. Where did their true loyalties lie? What knowledge did they guard so jealously? Were they merely knights serving God and King, or were they custodians of a deeper, more dangerous truth? These questions linger because, by design, the Templars left us only fragments of their story. It is in these shadows that the fascination grows. Every fortress, every coded manuscript, every whispered rumor hints at layers of history concealed from the public eye. It is as if the Templars created a parallel history, one that exists just beyond the reach of ordinary scholars, waiting for those daring enough to follow the trail. This tension between the visible and the hidden, between what we know and what we can only speculate, is what makes their story timeless. The Templars were more than knights. They were enigmas, walking a fine line between devotion and secrecy, between power and mystery. As we explore their legacy, it becomes clear that their influence extends far beyond their violent suppression in the early 14th century. The structures they built, the wealth they amassed, and the secrets they guarded continue to echo through time, seeding myths, conspiracies, and the enduring allure of the forbidden. To understand the Templars is not simply to recount battles won or lost. It is to peer into a world where knowledge itself was a treasure, where silence was a weapon, and where the ordinary and the extraordinary coexisted in ways that still challenge our understanding of history. The Templar story, in all its layers of intrigue, secrecy, and influence, invites us to look closer, to question what we have been told, and to imagine the possibilities that lie in the gaps of the historical record. They remind us that history is not just a series of events, but a tapestry of hidden forces, suppressed truths, and whispers of power that survive long after the swords have rusted and the banners have faded. In studying the Templars, we do not merely examine the past. We step into the shadows where the extraordinary meets the unknown, and where the secrets of an ancient order continue to whisper across centuries. Long before the Templars became synonymous with wealth, power, and secrecy, there was the legend of the Grail, a relic so powerful, so enigmatic, that it captivated the minds of kings, scholars, and dreamers for centuries. The Grail was more than a cup or a chalice. It was said to contain divine energy, sacred knowledge, and the promise of immortality. Some saw it as a symbol of spiritual perfection, others as a literal vessel of unimaginable power. By the time the Templars rose to prominence, whispers of the Grail had already spread across Europe, and the possibility that the Knights had discovered, guarded, or even hidden it added a layer of mystique to their already enigmatic reputation. The connection between the Templars and the Grail is rooted in both historical conjecture and myth. Medieval chroniclers hinted at secret quests and hidden relics, often cloaked in allegory and symbolism. Stories spoke of Templar knights venturing into the Holy Land not merely to fight, but to seek artifacts of profound importance. Among these treasures was the Grail, a cup or stone that held the divine essence of Christ, or, according to some theories, a lost source of ancient wisdom predating Christianity itself. Whether literal or symbolic, the idea that the Templars were guardians of such a secret elevated their status from mere warriors to custodians of a mystery that could alter the very fabric of history. Evidence of the Grail's presence among the Templars is elusive but tantalizing. Some point to architectural symbols etched into Templar churches, cryptic inscriptions carved into stone, and manuscripts that survived the purge of the order. These fragments suggest a deliberate effort to encode knowledge, a hidden language of symbols meant only for the initiated. Consider the intricate carvings at Gothic cathedrals, the unusual placement of towers and arches, and the alignment of certain Templar commanderies with celestial events. Scholars and esoteric researchers alike have speculated that these were not mere coincidences but markers, guiding those who understood the code toward hidden relics or sacred locations. In this view, the Templars were not only knights. They were architects of a secret network designed to protect the Grail from those unworthy or unprepared to wield it. The Grail's symbolism extends beyond its physical form. In the literature of the time, it represents the ultimate quest, a journey of the soul as well as the body. The knight who seeks the Grail is tested, purified, and transformed. The Templars, in guarding the Grail, were perhaps also part of this transformative narrative, bound not only by duty to the Church, but by a higher, more mysterious calling. Some esoteric scholars suggest that the Grail embodies hidden knowledge, a metaphysical truth encoded in a sacred geometry, preserved in manuscripts, and carried across generations. The Templars, they argue, were entrusted with the preservation of this knowledge, ensuring it would survive persecution, war, and the inexorable march of time. The idea that the Templars possessed the Grail also raises provocative questions about their downfall. If the Grail, or the knowledge associated with it, was indeed in their care, it would explain the extreme measures taken against the order. King Philip IV of France, heavily indebted to the Templars, orchestrated their arrest, accusing them of heresy, blasphemy, and immoral practices. The Church, complicit in this purge, sought to eliminate a potential threat to its authority. Yet what if these charges were a pretext? What if the true danger lay not in their political power, but in the secrets they carried? The abrupt dissolution of the Templars may have been less about their earthly wealth and more about controlling or suppressing knowledge powerful enough to challenge existing hierarchies. Legends surrounding the Grail and the Templars persisted long after the order was officially disbanded. Tales tell of knights fleeing with sacred relics, disappearing into remote regions, and entrusting their knowledge to select heirs. Some were said to have traveled to Scotland, Portugal, or even distant lands, leaving cryptic clues for future generations. These stories are often dismissed as fanciful or mythological, yet the persistence of these legends suggests there may be more truth than scholars have dared admit. Each legend, each whisper, hints at a network of guardians and a trail of treasures deliberately obscured from the world. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of the Templar Grail connection is the sense that it was never meant to be fully revealed. The Grail is a test, a symbol of both spiritual and intellectual pursuit. To protect it, the Templars had to operate in secrecy, creating a culture of coded messages, hidden chambers, and enigmatic symbols. This secrecy ensured that only the worthy, the persistent, and the discerning could ever approach the truth. And even today, centuries later, we are drawn to the same enigma, tracing the faint echoes of a quest that began in the Middle Ages but continues to stir the imagination. As we trace the Templars' journey, it becomes clear that their guardianship of the Grail was not merely a fanciful tale, but a mission interwoven with politics, war, and hidden knowledge. Every fortress, every manuscript, every coded emblem may have served a dual purpose, protecting material wealth and safeguarding a deeper, transcendent truth. The Grail, whether real or symbolic, represents a convergence of history, spirituality, and mystery, and the Templars stand at the center of this convergence, their actions and sacrifices shrouded in both reverence and secrecy. In the pursuit of understanding the Templars, the Grail offers a lens through which we can interpret their extraordinary rise and abrupt fall. It suggests that their legacy is more than the chronicles of battle or the ledgers of wealth. It is the preservation of knowledge, the protection of something so powerful that centuries of rulers, scholars, and seekers would risk everything to find it. The whispers of the Grail invite us into a labyrinth of mystery, where history and legend intertwine, where secrets are layered upon secrets, and where the true extent of the Templars' mission remains tantalizingly just out of reach. The story of the Grail and the Templars is not one easily confined to the pages of history books. It is a story of devotion, intellect, courage, and secrecy, a narrative that challenges the boundaries of what we know and what we can imagine. And as we follow this trail, we begin to sense the stakes involved. The potential of knowledge too powerful to be wielded freely, the lengths to which men and women would go to guard it, and the enduring allure of a quest that continues to call out to the curious and the daring. This is the path we are about to follow, a path where history and legend converge, where whispers of the Grail beckon, and where the forbidden treasures of the Templars may yet reveal themselves to those who seek with both eyes and imagination wide open. The sudden downfall of the Knights Templar remains one of the most dramatic and mysterious events of the medieval period, a story that continues to captivate the imagination centuries later. In the early 14th century, the order that had once seemed invincible, the trusted guardians of pilgrims, the financiers of kings, and the keepers of secrets, both sacred and dangerous, was struck down almost overnight. The rapidity of their fall was as shocking as it was meticulously orchestrated, revealing a web of political intrigue, envy, and fear that extended far beyond the borders of France. The seeds of their demise were planted long before the infamous arrests of 1307. King Philip IV of France, known as Philip the Fair, was deeply indebted to the Templars, having borrowed enormous sums to fund wars and maintain his kingdom. The order's immense wealth, coupled with its independence and secrecy, posed a threat to Philip's authority. Unlike other nobles or bankers, the Templars were not easily manipulated or intimidated. They answered to their own Grand Master and, theoretically, to the Pope alone. This autonomy made them a target. Financial necessity, political ambition, and perhaps a touch of paranoia converged, setting the stage for a purge that would leave a lasting stain on history. On Friday, October 13th, 1307, a date that would later give rise to superstition, agents of King Philip swept across France, arresting Templars in a coordinated strike. The charges were sensational: heresy, blasphemy, idolatry, and immorality. Some accused them of secret rituals, denying Christ, and engaging in obscene ceremonies that, if true, would have defied the order's very vows. These accusations, however, are widely considered fabrications, carefully constructed to justify the seizure of wealth and the destruction of the order's influence. The Templars were subjected to brutal interrogations, often under torture, ensuring confessions, true or coerced, that could be cited as evidence in the king's campaign against them. The Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, and other high-ranking Templars were brought to trial in a spectacle that mixed legal procedure with theatrical intimidation. Accounts from the time describe public hearings designed to humiliate and discredit, turning the knights' reputation from respected guardians to vilified heretics in the eyes of the populace. Yet even in the face of such adversity, de Molay and his companions displayed remarkable composure, at times retracting coerced confessions and maintaining their innocence. Their defiance only heightened the tension, as Philip and the Church sought to assert control over an institution that had once operated independently and with impunity. The trials were swift and ruthless. Many Templars were executed, their deaths serving as both punishment and warning. Jacques de Molay himself was burned at the stake in 1314, a dramatic finale to the order's suppression and a moment that would echo through history as a symbol of injustice, mystery, and the enduring power of secrecy. The Church, while complicit, attempted to maintain a veneer of legality, transferring some Templar assets to other religious orders, while the majority of the order's holdings vanished into private hands or were absorbed by the crown. The abrupt erasure of the Templars from the public only fueled speculation. What had they possessed that was worth such relentless suppression? It is within these gaps, the missing treasures, the lost texts, and the abrupt disappearance of leaders and members, that the seeds of legend took root. The Templars were rumored to have hidden vast wealth, including gold, sacred relics, and manuscripts of forbidden knowledge. Some historians suggest that the order had secret networks in place, designed to protect their treasures and knowledge in the event of persecution. Others argue that a portion of their wealth may have been spirited away to distant lands, perhaps even as far as Portugal, Scotland, or the Mediterranean, safeguarded by loyal knights or allies who remained loyal to their mission. The fall of the Templars also ignited centuries of speculation about the nature of the secrets they protected. Did their sudden persecution suggest that they were more than knights and bankers, that they were custodians of knowledge so powerful it threatened kings and popes alike? Allegations of hidden relics, encrypted manuscripts, and the Grail itself began to swirl, blending historical fact with legend. Each unanswered question deepened the mystery, creating a fertile ground for conspiracy theories and whispered tales that persist to this day. Even beyond France, the impact of the Templar suppression was felt across Europe. Commanderies in Spain, Portugal, and the Holy Land were dissolved or absorbed into other orders. Yet in some regions, especially Portugal, the Templar legacy was preserved under new names, with knights and assets quietly transferred to continue the mission in secrecy. This continuity, invisible to the broader world, hints at the possibility that the Templars' influence did not vanish entirely, but simply retreated into the shadows. Their treasures, their secrets, and their purpose may have survived, hidden in plain sight, awaiting the moment when someone might decipher the clues left behind. The abruptness and violence of the Templars' fall stand in stark contrast to their decades of meticulous planning and disciplined organization. It is this contrast, the sudden extinction of a powerful, secretive order, that fuels the enduring fascination. Were they destroyed merely for political gain, or did their suppression serve a more profound purpose? The containment of knowledge that was too dangerous to survive in the hands of men? The ambiguity of their downfall is part of what continues to captivate historians, writers, and seekers of forbidden truths. It is not just the wealth that vanished, but the aura of mystery, the sense of a mission interrupted, and the lingering whispers of secrets that the world was never meant to see. In examining the fall of the Templars, we begin to see the first clear signs of a trail left behind, a trail of treasure, manuscripts, symbols, and hidden knowledge. Each stone of a deserted commandery, each cryptic line in a surviving manuscript, becomes a clue pointing to what may still exist somewhere, buried beneath centuries of secrecy and silence. The Order's dramatic suppression does not signify the end of their story. Rather, it marks the beginning of a centuries-long hunt, one in which historians, adventurers, and seekers of the mysterious continue to follow the faint echoes of an order that once wielded unimaginable power, yet chose secrecy over revelation. The fall of the Templars reminds us that history is not merely a record of events, but a tapestry woven from both seen and unseen threads. In their destruction, we find a paradox. The more thoroughly they were hunted and erased, the more their legend grew. Their wealth, influence, and perhaps even sacred purpose may have been obscured, but they left behind a tantalizing trail of clues, symbols, and whispers that continue to challenge our understanding of history, mystery, and the very nature of power. The Order's sudden demise is not the end of the story. It is the spark that ignites the journey toward forbidden treasures and the secrets that the Templars carried into the shadows. After the dramatic fall of the Knights Templar, whispers of hidden wealth and secret knowledge began to circulate across Europe. The abrupt suppression of the Order did not extinguish the possibility that its treasure survived. If anything, it intensified the fascination with where these riches and sacred relics might have gone. From the stone fortresses of France to the sunlit plains of Portugal, there are countless stories of Templar treasures moved, concealed, and protected by knights who refused to surrender their sacred mission. Tracing these hidden trails requires venturing into a landscape where history, legend, and speculation intertwine, forming a map that is only partially visible to the untrained eye. The Templars' reach was extraordinary, stretching across kingdoms, cities, and distant ports. Commanderies dotted the European landscape like silent sentinels, each one a fortified stronghold designed not only for military defense, but also as a repository for wealth and knowledge. Within these stone walls, treasures of unimaginable value could have been stored. Gold coins, silver ingots, sacred relics, and manuscripts filled with secrets too dangerous to be widely known. When the Order was disbanded, it is believed that many of these items did not fall into the hands of kings or the church. Instead, loyal knights, guided by strict oaths, may have hidden them in secret locations, ensuring that their mission continued even in the face of persecution. France, the epicenter of the Templars' power and the site of their dramatic purge, holds some of the earliest clues. In the region of La Rochelle, a once thriving port city, rumors tell of ships laden with treasure departing under the cover of night, slipping past royal patrols to destinations unknown. Some historians propose that these vessels carried artifacts and wealth to the Iberian Peninsula, where Templar sympathizers and allied rulers could safeguard them. The idea that valuable cargo moved surreptitiously across the seas adds a layer of intrigue. The Templars were not only master strategists on land, but also skilled navigators, capable of orchestrating complex operations that would leave no trace for the authorities to follow. Portugal emerges as one of the most compelling destinations. Following the dissolution of the Templars, many knights found refuge in the newly established Order of Christ, a group that effectively absorbed former Templar assets while continuing their secretive mission. Fortresses like Tomar became centers of Templar continuity, hiding treasures and codices that may have included instructions, maps, and sacred knowledge. The architectural layout of these fortresses suggests that they were designed with secrecy in mind, with hidden chambers, concealed passages, and crypts that could protect their most precious holdings. It is here that some of the first pieces of the treasure puzzle begin to coalesce, offering tantalizing hints of what might have been preserved against the tide of history. Spain also carries its share of whispers. The Alhambra and other castles along the Iberian Peninsula are rumored to have been waypoints in the movement of Templar wealth. Knights fleeing persecution may have buried treasure in remote locations, secreted away in natural caves, or concealed within the very architecture of churches and monasteries. Local legends tell of tunnels connecting monasteries, leading to hidden vaults filled with gold and sacred relics. While many of these stories border on the fantastical, the consistency of these accounts across regions and generations suggests that there is more than mere myth at play. They are echoes of a carefully orchestrated plan to safeguard treasures from the reach of kings and inquisitors. Even within the heart of France, away from royal scrutiny, there are locations that hint at hidden wealth. The village of Geysers, long associated with Templar secrets, has been the subject of countless investigations and folklore. Buried vaults, secret crypts, and underground chambers suggest that the Templars may have used these sites to temporarily store valuables while arranging their transport to safer regions. Architectural anomalies, hidden passages, and carved symbols hint at a deliberate system of concealment, one that required intimate knowledge of geography, construction, and strategy. Every stone may have been placed not only for defense, but as a marker, a guide for those who would later recover or protect what was hidden. Beyond fortified locations and urban centers, natural geography played a crucial role in safeguarding treasures. Dense forests, remote mountains, and river valleys provided cover for secret operations. Knights could move heavy loads of wealth under the veil of darkness, guided by a combination of cartographic knowledge, coded messages, and loyal networks that spanned regions. Many of these natural routes remain overgrown or obscured, yet they continue to inspire speculation. The Templars, after all, were masters of strategic planning, and it is likely they understood that true secrecy required exploiting both man-made and natural features of the landscape. Maps and coded manuscripts add another layer of mystery to these hidden trails. Some surviving documents hint at locations, encoded in symbols, allegories, and obscure references that only an insider could decipher. While mainstream historians often dismiss these as fanciful, the persistence of such documents across centuries suggests they may contain kernels of truth. For modern seekers, deciphering these codes is akin to following breadcrumbs left behind by an order determined to protect its legacy. Each clue, no matter how cryptic, serves as a reminder that the trail of Templar treasures is both real and purposefully obscured, designed to resist discovery except by the most diligent. The complexity of these hidden trails highlights the extraordinary sophistication of the Templars. They were not merely reactive, hiding wealth in desperation. They were proactive, planning for contingencies, anticipating the rise of powerful adversaries, and ensuring the survival of what they guarded. The dispersal of their assets across multiple regions suggests a network designed to withstand attacks, political upheaval, and centuries of scrutiny. This network, hidden in plain sight, challenges our assumptions about medieval orders, revealing a level of organization, foresight, and strategy that remains impressive even by modern standards. The pursuit of these hidden trails is not just a matter of historical curiosity. It is a journey into the mindset of the Templars themselves. To follow the path of their treasures is to understand their discipline, their secrecy, and their devotion to a mission that transcended mere wealth or power. It is to see the world through their eyes, where every fortress, every river, and every forest could serve both practical and symbolic purposes. Each hidden site becomes a portal into a narrative of strategy, loyalty, and foresight, revealing that the Templars were not simply fleeing their pursuers. They were safeguarding a legacy meant to endure beyond their lifetimes. As we trace these trails across Europe, we begin to see a pattern. The Templars were deliberate, methodical, and purposeful. The stories of hidden gold, secret relics, and encrypted manuscripts are not isolated incidents, but parts of a coordinated effort that spanned decades and kingdoms. Every legend, every anecdote, and every physical marker points to a truth both simple and profound. The Templars anticipated the collapse of their order, and they acted to ensure that the treasures, knowledge, and sacred secrets they protected would survive, hidden from those who would misuse them, yet waiting for those who might one day follow the path they left behind. The legend of the Templar treasure is perhaps the most enduring and tantalizing aspect of the Order's history. Unlike the documented battles, charters, and finances, the treasure exists in the space between myth and history, a liminal realm where speculation, legend, and fragmentary evidence intertwine. Accounts from the period hint at vast fortunes: gold, silver, precious gems, sacred relics, and manuscripts containing knowledge that was considered dangerous or forbidden. But as the Templars fell under the relentless hand of King Philip IV and the Church, the trail of this wealth seemed to vanish into thin air, leaving only whispers that have echoed through the centuries. Some records suggest that the Templars were not merely custodians of wealth, but keepers of treasures tied to profound spiritual significance. Relics of saints, vessels once used in the Holy Land, and sacred objects rumored to have been touched by Christ himself were said to be in their possession. These were not merely symbols of faith. They carried with them the aura of power, a connection to the divine that transcended earthly riches. The disappearance of such artifacts fueled speculation that the Templars had hidden them with extraordinary care, choosing locations so secretive that even the most determined pursuers would find nothing but stone and shadow. Eyewitness accounts, though fragmentary and sometimes contradictory, offer tantalizing glimpses of these treasures. Chroniclers speak of convoys of carts laden with gold moving under the cover of night, guided by Templar knights who knew the terrain intimately. In some cases, ships are said to have carried treasure across the Mediterranean, vanishing from port records and leaving only rumors of clandestine landings in distant harbors. These stories, though difficult to verify, have persisted because they follow patterns that hint at careful planning, not haphazard flight. The Templars anticipated persecution and acted accordingly, establishing hidden caches across Europe that could withstand centuries of scrutiny. One of the most famous aspects of the lost treasure concerns the manuscripts and codices that may have been hidden alongside it. Some texts were rumored to contain esoteric knowledge, theological insights considered heretical, or technical wisdom that exceeded the understanding of contemporary scholars. The very act of encoding these documents, using ciphers, allegories, and symbolic language, suggests that the Templars intended their secrets to survive, but only for those capable of deciphering them. The manuscripts became more than information. They were keys to understanding a larger, hidden narrative, a map pointing toward both spiritual and material wealth. The disappearance of the treasure also raises questions about human nature and ambition. If wealth of such magnitude existed, it would have been irresistible to kings, nobles, and adventurers alike. Yet for centuries, the Templar hoard remained elusive. Some speculate that the Order deliberately split their treasures into multiple caches, hiding smaller portions in remote locations to avoid detection. Others argue that the treasures were smuggled out of Europe entirely, perhaps reaching distant lands where the Templars had allies or sympathizers. Each theory reinforces the idea that the Templars were meticulous planners, capable of foresight and strategy far beyond the ordinary. Modern treasure hunters have been drawn to these legends for centuries, following maps, manuscripts, and obscure local tales in hopes of rediscovering what was hidden. In France, attention is focused on sites such as Geysers, La Rochelle, and the Loire Valley, where legends speak of underground vaults and secret chambers. In Portugal, the Order of Christ strongholds, like Tomar, are rumored to have safeguarded not only wealth but sacred relics and codices, preserving knowledge that could alter perceptions of history. Even in Spain and the Mediterranean, accounts suggest that treasures were hidden in mountain caves, secret tunnels, or crypts within ancient churches. Each location offers a fragment of a larger puzzle, a tantalizing suggestion that the Templar hoard may still exist, waiting to be uncovered. The allure of the treasure is not merely material. It is entwined with the idea that the Templars were custodians of something far more significant than gold: knowledge, spiritual power, and a connection to the mysteries of the Grail itself. To find the treasure is, in this sense, to step into the mind of the Templars, to engage with their purpose, their discipline, and their devotion to a mission that transcended the ordinary. It is a quest that is both literal and symbolic, where maps and manuscripts intersect with allegory, and where each discovery leads to new questions rather than final answers. The legends also speak to the ingenuity of the Templars in hiding their wealth. Some accounts suggest that treasures were concealed within architecture, behind false walls, under floors, or in hidden vaults beneath churches and fortresses. In other cases, natural geography was exploited. Mountains, rivers, and forests provided cover for secret operations, allowing valuable items to be moved and stored with minimal risk of discovery. The combination of practical skill, strategic foresight, and esoteric knowledge underscores the sophistication of the Templars as more than warriors. They were master planners, capable of orchestrating operations that could survive persecution and centuries of neglect. Over time, the story of the lost treasure became intertwined with folklore, blending historical events with the imagination of generations. Tales of hidden vaults filled with gold, secret tunnels, and cryptic symbols were passed down, often embroidered with each retelling. Yet the persistence of these legends suggests that they are more than mere fiction. They reflect a collective memory of an order whose treasures and secrets were deliberately concealed, whose disappearance was orchestrated with such skill that even the most powerful rulers were left empty-handed. The Templars, it seems, had ensured that the knowledge of their treasures would endure, even if the treasures themselves remained hidden. The mystery of the lost treasure continues to captivate scholars, historians, and adventurers alike. Every new discovery, whether it be an ancient manuscript, a hidden chamber, or a local legend, reignites the possibility that some portion of the hoard may yet be recovered. And yet, for all the speculation, the treasure remains elusive, as if the Templars themselves intended it to be more than a prize of wealth, but a test of discernment, patience, and courage. To search for it is to step into a story that transcends time, to engage with a legacy that challenges the boundaries of history and myth, and to confront the enduring question: what is truly worth safeguarding, and why? The lost Templar treasure is not merely a relic of the past. It is a symbol of mystery, power, and human curiosity. It reminds us that some secrets are deliberately hidden, not to be forgotten, but to be preserved for those capable of understanding them. The treasure is a bridge between the world of history and the realm of legend, where wealth and wisdom, gold and knowledge, are intertwined in ways that defy simple explanation. And in following the trail of the Templars, we are invited not only to hunt for treasure, but to step into the shadows of a hidden history, to question what we know, and to imagine what has remained unseen for centuries. Beyond the tales of hidden gold and secret relics lies another layer of the Templar mystery, one even more elusive: the coded messages, cryptic manuscripts, and symbolic markers they left behind. These were not mere curiosities. They were the language of a secret world, carefully constructed to convey knowledge only to the initiated. In an era when literacy was rare and information controlled, codes and symbols became powerful tools the Templars mastered with extraordinary skill. The idea was simple yet profound: to preserve forbidden knowledge across generations, hidden in plain sight, awaiting those capable of deciphering it. Many of these manuscripts are fragmentary, surviving the purge of the order by the Church and the Crown. Some are confiscated and lost, others hidden in private collections, and a few emerged centuries later, tantalizing scholars and treasure seekers alike. They contain cryptic diagrams, obscure references, and allegorical stories that suggest layers of meaning beneath the surface. At first glance, these texts may appear as religious or mundane documents, but closer inspection reveals patterns, repetitions, and symbols that hint at a sophisticated system of secret communication. The Templars were not only guardians of wealth. They were custodians of information encoded to withstand time, scrutiny, and persecution. Among these documents, certain recurring symbols capture particular attention. The cross patee, often associated with the Templars, is more than an emblem of faith. It is a marker, a signal that a manuscript, building, or artifact may hold hidden significance. Other symbols, geometric shapes, and celestial alignments appear in Templar architecture and codices, suggesting knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and sacred geometry. Some researchers argue that these symbols were deliberately encoded to lead the worthy toward treasure, relics, or esoteric truths, forming a labyrinth of knowledge that transcends mere physical wealth. Each symbol is a piece of a larger puzzle, waiting for the right eyes to decode its meaning. The manuscripts themselves are often layered with meaning. Many employ allegory and narrative, telling stories of saints, quests, and battles while embedding instructions, locations, or philosophical insights beneath the surface. The imagery may seem religious or mundane, but hidden within are patterns that hint at maps, star alignments, or secret locations. For example, descriptions of rivers, mountains, or even specific constellations could serve as clues pointing to a hidden cache or sacred site. It is a careful balancing act between concealment and revelation. Only the initiated, trained to see beyond the obvious, could interpret the true purpose of these documents. The concept of coded manuscripts is not unique to the Templars, yet their sophistication suggests an unparalleled understanding of secrecy. The order existed in a world where knowledge was power, and the dissemination of certain truths could be dangerous. To encode information in manuscripts, symbols, and architecture was to create a multi-layered system of protection, ensuring that sacred or strategic knowledge could survive persecution. These were not idle exercises in cleverness. They were deliberate acts of preservation, a way to carry forward a mission interrupted by political intrigue, persecution, and fear. Each coded message was a thread linking past, present, and future. Architectural clues complement the manuscripts. Templar churches, abbeys, and commanderies often feature hidden chambers, false walls, and cryptic carvings. Some of these are purely functional, intended to conceal valuables or protect the order's assets. Others are symbolic, aligned with celestial events, numerology, or sacred geometry. The repetition of certain motifs suggests deliberate encoding. A particular stone carved in a seemingly decorative pattern may point toward a hidden vault, or a series of arches may align with the sunrise on a solstice, marking a location of significance. By reading these architectural symbols alongside the manuscripts, one begins to see the Templars' world as a vast, encrypted network, a system designed to survive centuries of scrutiny while concealing knowledge from the uninitiated. Celestial alignments and astronomical knowledge also play a role. Some Templar sites are precisely aligned with the solstices, equinoxes, or specific star formations. These alignments may have been used to encode dates, locations, or instructions, combining astronomy with architecture to create a layered system of communication. In a time before precise maps or modern navigation, celestial markers would have been a reliable method for guiding those in the know. They are subtle yet deliberate, a silent language written in stone and sky, revealing the depth of Templar sophistication and their understanding of the cosmos as a guide for earthly secrets. The intellectual challenge of decoding these manuscripts and symbols cannot be overstated. Many contain multiple layers of meaning, with religious allegory masking practical instructions, geometric patterns concealing hidden locations, and narrative structures encoding philosophical or mystical truths. To interpret them correctly requires a combination of historical knowledge, linguistic skill, mathematical understanding, and intuition. This complexity underscores the Templars' intent. They were not leaving clues for the casual seeker, but for those who could approach their legacy with diligence, discernment, and reverence. Some surviving manuscripts have become legendary in their own right. References to obscure texts hint at teachings preserved only in private collections or manuscripts burned during the Purge to prevent knowledge from spreading. Others, hidden in monasteries or private libraries, contain diagrams, star charts, and allegories that continue to baffle modern scholars. Each document serves as a testament to the Templars' meticulous care, their understanding that knowledge could be more valuable than gold, and that survival of their mission depended on secrecy and careful encoding. In this sense, the manuscripts themselves are treasures, keys to unlocking a hidden history and possibly a path to the legendary Grail or other sacred relics. The coded messages also suggest that the Templars viewed history as a continuum, not merely a sequence of events. They encoded lessons, warnings, and guidance for future generations, preserving their insights against the passage of time. Each symbol, manuscript, or architectural anomaly is a whisper from the past, an invitation to engage with the world as the Templars did, with discipline, intelligence, and a sense of wonder. To follow these clues is to step into their mindset, to walk through a labyrinth of secrecy and wisdom that spans centuries, and to confront the enduring question, what knowledge did they deem too important to risk being lost? In exploring these coded manuscripts and symbols, one realizes that the Templars' legacy extends far beyond material wealth. Their treasures were as much intellectual and spiritual as they were physical, combining knowledge, sacred purpose, and strategic foresight. Each fragment we uncover is part of a larger narrative, a map of intention and design, guiding those willing to look deeper. The codes, symbols, and manuscripts left behind are more than puzzles. They're a bridge connecting the past to the present, inviting us to decipher what was deliberately hidden, to understand a worldview that blends devotion, secrecy, and the pursuit of a higher truth. The pursuit of these clues is a journey into the Templars' very essence. It is an intellectual adventure where every manuscript, symbol, or architectural feature may contain a revelation, and where the search for treasure is inseparable from the quest for understanding. The Templars' coded legacy challenges us to see beyond the obvious, to question the historical record, and to imagine what truths have been deliberately concealed. And in doing so, it keeps alive the mystery, the intrigue, and the enduring allure of one of history's most secretive and fascinating orders. The Templars' secrets were often hidden not only in symbols and manuscripts, but also mapped across the landscape in ways that were deliberately cryptic. These hidden maps, some literal and others encoded in allegory, suggests the order understood geography as a tool for concealment. Rivers, mountains, and forests could guide the initiated while misleading outsiders, forming a network that blended strategy with secrecy. Evidence appears in multiple forms. Manuscripts contain diagrams, geometric patterns, and symbolic illustrations hinting at locations. Architecture itself, floor tiles, carvings, and stained glass, often encodes directional clues or coordinates. At first glance, these features seem decorative, but to the trained eye, they reveal a system designed to preserve knowledge across centuries. Celestial alignments, including solstices, equinoxes, and star formations, further reinforce these clues, creating maps that merge terrestrial and cosmic guidance. Portugal and France are particularly rich with such evidence. In Portugal, the Order of Christ inherited former Templar fortresses like Tomar, preserving secret chambers and layouts that may encode treasure or sacred knowledge. In France, legends of geysers and La Rochelle speak of underground tunnels and hidden vaults, hinting at carefully orchestrated concealment. Even natural geography played a role. Remote valleys, dense forests, and mountain caves were exploited to hide treasures from pursuers. These hidden maps were not merely practical, they were symbolic. Each landmark and coded reference could serve as a waypoint on both a physical and spiritual journey, guiding seekers toward treasures and knowledge. The Templars' approach transformed geography into a living labyrinth, a network of mystery designed to endure beyond persecution, revealing a vision of strategy, devotion, and foresight that continues to intrigue centuries later. Some say that when the Templar Order was officially dissolved, it did not vanish completely into the shadows of history. The sudden arrests, the burning of Grand Masters at the stake, the seizure of treasures, all of it painted a picture of finality, a grand conclusion to a chapter in European history. Yet whispers persisted, traveling quietly through centuries, of men who simply stepped away from the public eye, retreating into secrecy rather than surrender. These were not defeated warriors, but custodians of a knowledge so dangerous, so profound, that to reveal it could upend the foundations of power itself. Some scholars believe that these men found refuge in secret societies, organizations that carried forward not only their survival, but also their knowledge and treasures, hidden from the scrutiny of kings and popes alike. Modern conspiracy theorists often point to the Freemasons, suggesting a lineage that stretches unbroken from the Templars themselves. The idea is seductive, that beneath the Masonic lodges and ceremonial rituals of today lies the echo of an ancient order, safeguarding secrets that the world was never meant to see. The symbols etched into lodge walls, the cryptic phrases spoken during ceremonies, even the alignment of certain buildings and monuments, some argue, are more than mere traditions. They are messages, a coded language designed to protect knowledge of the Templar treasure and the Grail, transmitted through generations. Historians, of course, caution against drawing direct lines. The Freemasons, they argue, emerged centuries after the Templars' fall, and any connection may be circumstantial, symbolic, or even romanticized. Yet the allure of the idea persists, fed by tantalizing coincidences, the triangular and knightly symbols present in both Templar heraldry and Masonic iconography. The emphasis on secrecy and ritual, the stories of long-lost manuscripts reappearing in unexpected lodges across Europe. When pieced together, they create a narrative that is difficult to ignore, especially when framed against the backdrop of centuries of suppression, disappearances, and hidden treasures. But the trail of secrecy does not end with the Freemasons. Some researchers propose that other, more obscure societies acted as clandestine successors, guardians of forbidden knowledge. Rosicrucians, for example, a secretive order that emerged in the early 17th century, claimed mastery over esoteric wisdom, alchemy, and spiritual enlightenment. Could they have been the custodians of a Templar legacy, preserving not only gold and relics, but also the philosophical and mystical knowledge the order had accumulated during its centuries of existence? If so, the treasure of the Templars becomes far more than a material hoard. It transforms into a symbol of hidden wisdom, a key to understanding the convergence of faith, power, and the unseen forces that shaped Europe. Legends speak of carefully orchestrated networks, stretching from one city to another, from one secret lodge to the next. Across the continent, discreet messages were said to have been passed, instructions for safeguarding relics, directions to hidden vaults, even encoded warnings about those who sought to exploit their knowledge. The Templars, in this narrative, were not vanquished. They simply moved into the shadows, leaving breadcrumbs for those who could follow them. These breadcrumbs, subtle and encrypted, were the symbols on cathedral walls, the peculiar alignments of monuments, and the whispered instructions embedded in manuscripts long considered mere allegory. To the untrained eye, they were decorative or poetic, but to those initiated into the order of secrecy, they were a map, an inheritance passed down across centuries. Stories abound of individuals who claimed to have encountered these hidden networks. Some were scholars, stumbling across manuscripts in dusty libraries that seemed to speak directly to the Templar legacy. Others were travelers or explorers who found themselves led, almost imperceptibly, to sites marked by subtle signs. A particular stone set slightly askew, a cryptic inscription hidden in plain sight, a chapel door that creaked open with just the right touch. Each discovery was a whisper, a suggestion that the Templars' influence had not been entirely erased, that someone or something still watched over the treasure and knowledge, waiting for the right moment, or perhaps the right person, to continue the chain. Even today, the notion of a Templar lineage surviving through secret societies persists in both academic speculation and popular imagination. There are those who dedicate their lives to tracing these invisible threads, examining records that appear innocuous to most, searching for patterns that hint at continuity. Their work is painstaking, often bordering on obsession. Letters, meeting records, architectural plans, and ceremonial manuals are all examined for a single clue that might connect past and present. In this pursuit, the line between history and myth blurs, as each fragment of evidence seems simultaneously plausible and improbable. Across centuries, the Grail has remained an enigma, a symbol whose meaning shifts depending on who tells the story. To some, it is a sacred chalice, the vessel that once held the blood of Christ, imbued with divine power. To others, it is a metaphor, a symbol of enlightenment, spiritual transcendence, or forbidden knowledge. What makes the Grail so compelling is not simply its alleged physical form, but the power attributed to it, power that could reshape faith, hierarchy, and even human consciousness. The Knights Templar, some believe, understood this power intimately. They were not merely warriors of the Crusades, but guardians of a secret that many would have killed to possess. Historians often dismiss these claims, citing the Grail as myth or legend, born from medieval romances and embellished through literature over centuries. Yet if one steps beyond mainstream scholarship and examines the less conspicuous texts, manuscripts hidden in monastery archives, cryptic marginalia in ancient codices, obscure letters preserved by secret societies, an alternate narrative emerges. In this telling, the Grail was far more than a chalice. It was a repository of knowledge, an object capable of bestowing influence over not only kings and churches, but the very currents of human history. It was the kind of treasure that could not be hoarded openly, and so it was concealed, encoded, and guarded with devotion bordering on obsession. Prophecies linked to the Grail add another layer of mystery. Some texts claim that those who possess the Grail would gain insight into divine truths and the natural laws that govern existence. Others suggest that it could grant longevity or even a form of immortality, though not in the conventional sense. Its promise, some argue, was less about material wealth and more about enlightenment, a key to understanding the hidden forces that shape civilization. The Templars, steeped in both religious devotion and esoteric study, may have seen the Grail as a sacred instrument, a bridge between the human and the divine, a tool whose purpose extended far beyond mere ceremonial use. Many historians are skeptical, naturally. They point out that no physical evidence of the Grail has ever been found, and that medieval texts describing it are often poetic or allegorical. Yet the absence of evidence is itself a part of the story, for secrecy was a hallmark of the Templars. Any physical Grail would have been carefully hidden, perhaps fragmented, perhaps reinterpreted, and certainly encoded in symbols that only the initiated could decipher. Across Europe, there are hints in architecture, art, and written records, subtle references that seem almost deliberate, as if the guardians of this secret left behind a trail, fragile yet enduring, for those able to read it. In exploring these connections, one cannot ignore the mystical and philosophical frameworks that surrounded the Templars. Alchemy, for example, was not merely about turning base metals into gold. It was also a symbolic language of transformation, reflecting the process of spiritual enlightenment. Within this context, the Grail becomes an emblem of transformation itself. To those who understood the symbolism, the treasure the Templars guarded was not confined to earthly riches. It was the embodiment of a higher knowledge, capable of transforming individuals and, by extension, the societies they inhabited. This is where the narrative shifts from historical curiosity into profound mystery. The Grail as a conduit for both material and metaphysical power, a hidden axis upon which the fate of nations might turn. Some researchers suggest that the Grail's power was codified through rituals, prayers, and meditative practices. These practices, preserved in secret manuscripts and oral tradition, were meant to align the practitioner with higher truths. If the Templars possessed this knowledge, it would explain their secrecy and their extraordinary influence during the height of their power. And it could also explain the fierce determination of kings and popes to suppress them. The order's sudden downfall was not merely political. It was a calculated move to seize, obscure, or annihilate knowledge that threatened the established order. The Grail, after all, was not merely a cup. It was a symbol of liberation, a source of insight that could empower individuals beyond the reach of conventional authority. Legends often describe quests for the Grail as journeys of transformation rather than searches for treasure. Knights and seekers were tested, confronted with riddles, moral challenges, and inner trials, suggesting that the Grail's true power was as much spiritual as physical. In this sense, the Templars' guardianship takes on a profound significance. They were protectors of a path, a hidden curriculum of enlightenment disguised as a military and religious order. Their rituals, codes, and clandestine actions all served a singular purpose: to ensure that the Grail, and the knowledge it represented, would endure, carefully shielded from those unprepared to wield it responsibly. Modern interpretations continue to fuel speculation. Scholars, writers, and enthusiasts trace the Grail's influence in everything from medieval architecture to Renaissance art. Some argue that its presence is encoded in sacred geometry, while others see it in the hidden symbolism of cathedrals, monasteries, and private collections. Even contemporary secret societies are said to reference its legacy, suggesting that the search for the Grail never truly ended, but evolved, passing from knightly orders to clandestine networks that continue to operate in the shadows. This continuity creates a chilling sense of possibility, that the Grail, or what it represents, may still exist, waiting for those able to interpret its signs and unlock its power. And yet, the allure of the Grail is as much about the questions it provokes as the answers it might conceal. Was it a literal vessel, a physical artifact of immense sacred significance? Or was it a symbol of wisdom, a codified teaching meant to guide humanity along a hidden path? Perhaps it was both, a tangible object imbued with symbolic and mystical resonance, protected by an order that understood the stakes of knowledge in a world driven by power and belief. The Templars' devotion to its secrecy ensures that even centuries later, the Grail retains its mystique, a forbidden treasure, a sacred key, and a haunting whisper from the past that continues to call across time. In contemplating the Grail and its significance, one is left with a sense of both wonder and unease. It is not merely a relic of the past, but a mirror reflecting the perennial tension between hidden knowledge and overt authority, between those who seek enlightenment and those who seek control. The Templars may have disappeared from public view, but their guardianship, their allegiance to the Grail, and their understanding of its profound power remain an open question. And in the stillness of this centuries-long mystery, one can almost hear the whispers of those who walked before, urging us to look closer, think deeper, and perhaps, one day, to uncover the truth that history has carefully concealed. Long after the Templars faded from public view, their legend continued to cast a long shadow over Europe. Generations of scholars, adventurers, and treasure hunters have been drawn to the echoes of this vanished order, lured by the promise of gold, relics, and secrets too powerful to imagine. Their quests are often perilous, unfolding in the hidden corners of centuries-old castles, beneath cathedrals, and deep in forgotten tunnels where the air is thick with dust and silence. For some, the pursuit of the Templar treasure is more than a search for wealth. It is a journey into history itself, a descent into the mystery that has been carefully concealed for hundreds of years. The modern era has only amplified the intrigue. With advanced technology, researchers can explore catacombs that were previously inaccessible, scan ancient walls for hidden chambers, and analyze manuscripts that were once thought indecipherable. Yet, despite these advantages, the treasure remains elusive. Every discovery raises more questions than answers. A carefully carved symbol in a chapel wall, a hidden compartment behind a weathered altar, a reference buried in a dusty codex. All seem to point toward the treasure, yet each clue leads deeper into a labyrinth of historical and mystical enigmas. Some claim that these discoveries are intentionally misleading, traps left by the Templars themselves to misdirect those who are unworthy or unprepared. There are tales of explorers who stumbled upon sites that suggested the Templars' presence, only to leave empty-handed or vanish mysteriously. One story tells of a French historian who, after uncovering a hidden chamber in a medieval fortress, found a collection of manuscripts describing rituals and coded maps. Before he could reveal his findings, the documents disappeared, and he himself was reportedly warned by anonymous sources to abandon the investigation. Stories like these perpetuate the sense that the treasure is not merely hidden. It is fiercely protected, both by the shadows of history and by those who may still guard it today. Treasure hunters have also traced the Templars' trail across Europe, from the ruins of their fortresses in France to the secretive chapels of Scotland and England. In places like Rosslyn Chapel, carved symbols are interpreted as markers of hidden passageways or clues to the location of relics. In Château de Geysers, legends tell of tunnels built beneath the fortress, where Templar treasures were allegedly stored before the order's dissolution. Even Paris, with its labyrinthine catacombs, is said to conceal chambers filled with artifacts or cryptic manuscripts. Each location carries its own mystery, its own potential breakthrough, yet the line between legend and reality remains frustratingly thin. For many modern seekers, the allure lies not only in the historical significance, but also in the thrill of uncovering something that has been deliberately erased or suppressed. The Templar treasure is not just gold or artifacts. It is a symbol of knowledge deliberately withheld from the world. Each expedition is a confrontation with centuries of secrecy, a test of patience, insight, and courage. Maps must be interpreted, symbols decoded, and histories reconciled, all while navigating the dangers of crumbling structures, legal restrictions, and the occasional shadowy figure who seems intent on preventing discovery. Interestingly, some explorers report encounters that cannot be explained by conventional reasoning. A team investigating ruins in southern France claimed to have been guided by subtle markers, a set of stones arranged in patterns, faint symbols carved into beams, even the alignment of sunlight through broken windows that seemed almost designed to lead them along a precise path. The deeper they went, the more the line between history, legend, and the mystical blurred. It was as though the Templars had anticipated the centuries of hunters who would follow, leaving trails that were both literal and symbolic, physical yet deeply metaphysical. The stories of failed expeditions are nearly as compelling as those of success. In one account, a group of historians believed they had pinpointed a hidden Templar vault beneath a cathedral. When they broke through the old masonry, the chamber was empty, yet evidence suggested it had once contained objects of immense value. Was the treasure removed by previous seekers, secret societies, or perhaps by the Templars themselves long ago? These unanswered questions only deepen the sense of mystery, reinforcing the idea that the pursuit of the treasure is a journey into the unknown, where the line between fact and myth is deliberately obscured. What makes these modern quests truly fascinating is the convergence of multiple disciplines: history, archaeology, cryptography, and even geology. Explorers study medieval construction techniques, analyze the orientation of buildings, and examine documents that were nearly lost to time. Each discovery is pieced together like a puzzle, where a single misinterpretation could send a seeker astray for years. In this sense, the search for the Templar treasure mirrors the very methods the Knights themselves may have employed: careful observation, layered codes, and a deep understanding of both the physical and the symbolic landscapes they inhabited. The pursuit of the treasure is not limited to material gain. Some historians and seekers argue that the Templar legacy, preserved through these hidden artifacts, offers profound insights into medieval knowledge, spiritual practice, and the transmission of secret wisdom. To uncover even a fragment of this legacy is to glimpse a world where power, faith, and secrecy intersected in ways that shaped history itself. Each expedition becomes a dialogue with the past, an attempt to decode messages left by men who understood that their survival and the survival of their secrets depended on leaving only whispers for future generations. And so, the modern hunter continues, driven by curiosity, obsession, or a combination of both. Across Europe and beyond, explorers trace maps, follow cryptic writings, and examine the minutest details of ancient sites, each step a tentative dialogue with a vanished order. The Templars may be gone, but their influence persists, hidden in architecture, manuscripts, and the very myths that continue to captivate imaginations. The treasure remains unseen, yet its presence is felt in every carved stone, in every shadowed chamber, in every whispered story passed from generation to generation. It is this sense of elusive, enduring mystery that fuels the pursuit, and it is this pursuit that keeps the legend alive, haunting the present just as it has haunted the centuries before. The story of modern hunters serves as a reminder that history is not static. It is a living, breathing narrative shaped by those who dare to seek, question, and explore. The Templar's treasure, whether literal or symbolic, remains a beacon for those willing to navigate the shadows, decode the past, and confront the unknown. In doing so, they join a lineage of seekers, tracing a path that begins in the courts and battlefields of medieval Europe, threads through secret societies and hidden archives, and extends into the present, where whispers of the Grail continue to call out, compelling the curious to listen, follow, and perhaps, one day, uncover what has been hidden for so long. Even after centuries, the symbols left behind by the Templars continue to whisper secrets to those who know how to listen. From their coats of arms to the carvings in stone, these signs were never mere decoration. Every emblem, every cryptic mark, every carefully placed motif carried meaning, a coded language intended to guide, warn, or protect. For modern researchers, decoding these symbols is like piecing together a puzzle that stretches across time, geography, and the hidden corridors of human knowledge. Each symbol represents not only a piece of the Templars' history, but also a fragment of the treasure they so fiercely protected. Scholars and enthusiasts alike have traced these markings across Europe, noting patterns that suggest deliberate placement and intricate communication. In Gothic cathedrals, a faint cross etched into a pillar may align with another symbol hundreds of miles away. In ancient manuscripts, letters are subtly altered, and illustrations contain hidden geometries that reveal knowledge only to those trained to read them. Even the orientation of doors, windows, and altars has been interpreted as encoding paths or instructions. To the uninitiated, these are merely artistic flourishes. But to those who study the Templars' secret language, every detail becomes a potential key, a guide to vaults, relics, or knowledge lost to conventional history. Perhaps the most compelling evidence lies in the precision of these codes. For example, a carved rose in one chapel may mirror a similar motif in another, suggesting a connection between sites. Hidden staircases, false walls, and subterranean passages appear to correspond with these symbols, as if the Templars left behind a network of clues to protect the treasure from those who are unworthy. Modern explorers have reported encountering sequences of markings that, when followed correctly, lead to hidden chambers or ancient texts. Each discovery deepens the sense that the Templars were not merely hiding wealth. They were creating a living map, a secret infrastructure built to endure centuries of scrutiny and suppression. The very act of decoding these symbols is itself a journey into a different mindset, one that balances logic with intuition, scholarship with imagination. Some symbols draw from biblical stories, others from alchemical diagrams, astrology, or numerology. Each layer adds complexity, reflecting a worldview in which the material and the spiritual are inseparable. To understand the Templars' language is to understand their vision of the world, a vision in which knowledge is sacred, protection is paramount, and the act of hiding information is an art form in itself. Historians often debate whether these symbols are the product of the Templars alone or if they represent a broader network of esoteric knowledge circulating in medieval Europe. The order was known to engage with scholars, philosophers, and mystics of the time, exchanging ideas that would later be obscured or suppressed. This raises the possibility that the symbols are not merely Templar, but a synthesis of multiple intellectual and spiritual traditions, encoded into a single, enduring language of secrecy. To follow these codes is to navigate a landscape where history, myth, and hidden knowledge intersect, each symbol a doorway into layers of meaning that challenge conventional understanding. In some locations, the interplay between symbols and geography becomes strikingly apparent. A simple pattern carved into a chapel wall might correspond to a specific alignment with the sun on a particular day of the year, illuminating a hidden inscription or passage. Other symbols indicate subterranean routes, the existence of hidden vaults, or the presence of sacred relics. For centuries, these signs have evaded the attention of casual observers, only revealing themselves to those willing to look closely, patiently, and with a mind open to possibilities that defy ordinary expectation. The Templars' foresight in creating such a system is remarkable, a testament to their understanding of both human nature and the importance of safeguarding secrets over time. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Templar symbols is their adaptability. Over centuries, some have been altered, misinterpreted, or repurposed, yet the core message remains intact for those who can perceive it. Symbols are layered, multifaceted, and context-dependent, reflecting a strategy of concealment that is as much psychological as it is physical. Even when artifacts are moved, buildings destroyed, or manuscripts lost, the essence of the message persists, encoded in ways that reward diligence and curiosity. This enduring nature of Templar communication is why so many modern researchers believe the treasure may still be recoverable, waiting to be uncovered by those who understand the language left behind. The process of decoding these signs is meticulous. Researchers cross-reference symbols found in manuscripts with architectural motifs, map layouts, and historical records. They analyze recurring patterns in geometry, numerology, and iconography, seeking coherence in what may appear at first glance to be random. Some believe that the sequence of symbols across multiple locations constitutes a map, pointing toward a central treasure or a set of hidden vaults. Others argue that these symbols are protective in nature, designed to mislead, confuse, or test the intent of those who dare follow them. Either way, the effect is profound. The Templars' legacy of secrecy is both tangible and intellectual, a code woven into the very fabric of European history. The deeper one delves, the more apparent it becomes that these symbols are not merely historical artifacts. They are invitations. They invite the modern observer to engage with the Templars' worldview, to appreciate the layers of knowledge they guarded, and to participate in the ongoing narrative of discovery. Each symbol offers a glimpse into the Order's philosophy, revealing their understanding of faith, power, and the sacred. In decoding these symbols, one does not simply uncover clues to hidden gold or relics. One engages with a system of thought that has survived centuries, a whisper from the past that challenges the present to see beyond the ordinary. Ultimately, the Templar symbols remind us that history is rarely straightforward. They teach that knowledge can be concealed in plain sight, that messages can endure when written with care, and that those who seek must cultivate patience, insight, and reverence for the past. In tracing these marks across cathedrals, manuscripts, and ruins, modern researchers participate in a centuries-long dialogue, following footsteps that were deliberately hidden but never entirely erased. The Templars may have vanished from the world of kings and churches, but through these symbols, their presence lingers, a coded legacy that continues to challenge, intrigue, and beckon those willing to decode the whispers of a forgotten order. History is rarely kind to those who stumble upon truths that challenge the established order. Across the centuries, countless discoveries hint at hidden chapters in the story of the Templars, fragments of manuscripts, cryptic maps, and relics that seem to defy conventional understanding. Yet these revelations are often accompanied by mystery, suppression, or outright disappearance. Scholars, explorers, and even amateur historians who believe they have uncovered something significant frequently report obstacles that cannot be explained by chance alone. Doors locked without reason, documents removed from libraries, coded notes disappearing overnight. All contribute to a pattern that suggests the Templar legacy was deliberately shielded, not only from history, but from anyone who might wield it without caution. Consider the records that emerged during the Renaissance, long after the official dissolution of the Templar Order. Manuscripts appeared that referenced rituals, treasure locations, and sacred knowledge that were supposedly lost to time. Some were dismissed as forgeries or fanciful accounts. Others, preserved in monastic archives or private collections, vanished under mysterious circumstances. It is impossible to ignore the repeated pattern. Whenever the Templar trail becomes tangible, an invisible hand seems to intervene, keeping the secrets obscured, often for centuries. Was it chance, or was it deliberate? A careful orchestration to control knowledge, to prevent the wrong hands from uncovering the Order's most guarded mysteries? Stories abound of discoveries that were never meant to be public. In France, a researcher investigating the archives of an abandoned abbey reportedly found a set of coded instructions pointing toward a hidden vault. Within days, the papers had disappeared without a trace, and local authorities offered no explanation. In England, a historian studying medieval charters noticed references to a concealed Templar library beneath a cathedral. Attempts to access the area were blocked by legal restrictions, renovations, and even structural hazards that conveniently prevented entry. Each account carries a common thread, that there exists a layer of guardianship, invisible yet pervasive, ensuring that the Templars' treasures and knowledge remain shielded from casual discovery. The question naturally arises, who would be responsible for such cover-ups? Some speculate that the Church, wary of losing control over sacred narratives, may have been involved in suppressing evidence of Templar power and knowledge. Others argue that early secret societies, perhaps even the surviving Templars themselves, continued to protect their legacy, ensuring that only those deemed worthy could approach the truth. Modern historians may prefer simpler explanations: accidents, loss, or misplacement. But the consistency and repetition of these incidents over centuries create a sense of deliberate patterning, one that cannot easily be dismissed as coincidence. Beyond documents, there are also physical traces of suppression. Vaults discovered in ruins are often found empty, manuscripts vanish from archives, and symbols etched into stone are defaced or altered. Each act erases a piece of the story, yet paradoxically, the act of concealment leaves its own clues. Scholars who study the surviving fragments notice patterns, alignments, and discrepancies that suggest deliberate removal or misdirection. It is as if those who seek to hide the treasure were also leaving subtle hints for those perceptive enough to interpret them, a challenge that blends history, intelligence, and the mystical arts. The danger of discovery is another recurring theme. Tales exist of researchers encountering threats, both subtle and overt, after uncovering Templar artifacts. Anonymous warnings, accidents, and even disappearances feed into the narrative that the guardianship of the Templars' secrets continues, not merely as legend, but as a tangible force influencing those who dare to search. These accounts, whether factual or embellished over time, reinforce the sense that the pursuit of Templar knowledge is not merely an intellectual endeavor, but a venture into a world of unseen power, where the stakes are as high as they were centuries ago. Many historians argue that these cover-ups were not just about protecting wealth or relics. They were about controlling information. The Templars were rumored to possess knowledge that could alter the balance of power, secrets about sacred relics, spiritual enlightenment, and perhaps even the Grail itself. If such knowledge were to fall into the wrong hands, the consequences could be profound. In this sense, the suppression of discoveries was not simply a matter of greed or fear, but a calculated effort to maintain order and control. By obscuring the Templars' traces, successive generations ensured that the power contained within these secrets would remain dormant, accessible only to those who could navigate the labyrinth of codes, symbols, and whispers. The pattern of forbidden discoveries extends beyond Europe. Scholars and treasure hunters report that ancient manuscripts in private collections, some of which surfaced in the 19th and 20th centuries, contain detailed instructions, cryptic symbols, and references to the Templar treasure. These items often vanished, sold under obscure circumstances, or locked away from public scrutiny. Even in the modern age, when digital archives and mass communication make information more accessible than ever, certain Templar-related discoveries seem to be quietly suppressed, reinforcing the notion that the Order's secrets remain protected by a combination of historical inertia and deliberate intervention. What emerges from these stories is a picture of a legacy both fragile and resilient. The Templars' knowledge, once threatened by persecution and fire, has survived, hidden in plain sight or encoded in ways that challenge conventional interpretation. The suppression of discoveries serves not to erase the past entirely, but to filter those who can access it, ensuring that the knowledge is transmitted selectively. It is a system of guardianship spanning centuries, one that blurs the line between history and legend, between protection and conspiracy. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of these forbidden discoveries is the tension they create between curiosity and caution. Every clue ignites imagination, yet every account of suppression serves as a warning. The treasure and knowledge of the Templars are not just rewards for persistence. They are tests designed to reveal the character, perception, and intent of those who seek them. In this way, the Templars' influence extends far beyond their temporal existence, shaping the motivations and actions of seekers even centuries after the order ceased to exist publicly. In the end, the story of forbidden discoveries and cover-ups underscores a central truth about the Templar legacy: that history is not merely a record of events, but a living, breathing narrative, carefully curated and sometimes concealed by those who understood its power. The whispers of hidden knowledge, the vanishing manuscripts, the empty vaults, and the unexplained interventions all serve to reinforce the idea that the Templars were not defeated. They simply shifted their realm of influence into secrecy. And it is this secrecy, this deliberate obfuscation, that continues to captivate, challenge, and haunt those who dare to follow the trail. The legend of the Grail has endured for centuries, not merely as a tale of hidden treasure, but as a symbol that has seeped into the very fabric of European culture, art, and spirituality. Unlike material wealth, the Grail's significance is elusive, shifting with the lens through which it is viewed. To the medieval mind, it was a sacred vessel, a tangible connection to the divine. To the poets and chroniclers who came after, it became an allegory, a mirror reflecting humanity's pursuit of virtue, enlightenment, and transcendence. Over time, the Grail transformed into something more than a relic. It became a symbol, a story, a whisper across centuries that continues to inspire seekers of truth, meaning, and mystery alike. Throughout literature, the Grail appears as both an object and an idea. In the Arthurian romances, knights embark on perilous quests, facing trials of courage, morality, and wisdom, all in pursuit of something that may never exist in a physical sense. Yet these narratives carry a profound message. The Grail is not merely a goal, but a transformative journey. Its power lies not in the gold it may contain, but in the lessons it imparts, the inner growth it demands, and the understanding it reveals. In this way, the Grail bridges the gap between material and spiritual pursuit, between historical legend and human aspiration. Artists, too, have captured the Grail's enduring mystique. From illuminated manuscripts to grand paintings, the imagery associated with the Grail is both literal and symbolic. Chalices glimmer in candlelight, angels hover, and knights kneel in reverence. Yet hidden within these depictions are subtler references, geometric patterns, celestial alignments, and recurring motifs that suggest a deeper, esoteric knowledge. Some scholars propose that these artistic choices were deliberate, coded messages, a visual continuation of the Templars' secret language, intended to convey wisdom to those able to interpret it while remaining imperceptible to the uninitiated. Even architecture has been touched by the Grail's influence. Cathedrals, chapels, and sacred sites are said to contain symbols and alignments referencing Grail lore. From rose windows reflecting the sun in precise patterns to labyrinthine floor designs guiding pilgrims along specific paths, the Grail's presence is woven subtly into the structures of spiritual life. It is as though the Grail was never meant to be found easily. its significance hidden in plain sight, accessible only to those willing to engage deeply with the symbolic landscape of their world. The Grail's cultural impact extends beyond Europe. Its mythology has been adapted, transformed, and absorbed into countless traditions, becoming a universal archetype of the sacred, the mysterious, and the unattainable. Across centuries, storytellers have invoked the Grail to explore themes of purity, sacrifice, and transcendence, ensuring that its resonance continues to echo far beyond the medieval world in which the Templars thrived. Even today, films, novels, and art draw upon the Grail's imagery, demonstrating its enduring ability to capture imagination and convey layers of meaning that extend beyond the literal. What makes the Grail particularly compelling is its duality. It exists simultaneously as a historical puzzle and a spiritual symbol. Researchers can examine maps, manuscripts, and architecture for concrete clues, yet the Grail's true essence is often philosophical or mystical, suggesting that its ultimate purpose may never be fully tangible. The Templars themselves, if they indeed safeguarded the Grail, may have understood this duality. The treasure, the knowledge, and the relics were inseparable from the spiritual journey they symbolized, reinforcing the idea that the Grail was a key not only to hidden wealth, but to higher understanding, ethical responsibility, and the transformative power of faith intertwined with wisdom. Across centuries, the Grail has inspired both devotion and obsession. Religious figures, alchemists, philosophers, and adventurers alike have sought to uncover its secrets. The pursuit is never purely material. It is an engagement with mystery itself, an invitation to explore the unknown. In many ways, the Grail represents humanity's longing for connection to something greater, a bridge between the tangible and the ineffable. Its cultural significance is thus profound. It shapes thought, creativity, and belief, even in those who may never encounter it directly. Moreover, the Grail has served as a lens through which we can view the Templars' influence. If the Order truly acted as guardians, its purpose was not merely to hide riches, but to protect a story, a symbolic system, and a path toward understanding that could guide generations. The Grail is both the object of this protection and a metaphor for the mission itself, embodying the Templars' devotion to knowledge, virtue, and the mysteries they valued above all else. In this light, the treasure becomes inseparable from the philosophy and a legend from the lived history of those who preserved it. The Grail's enduring mystique also lies in the unanswered questions it poses. Is it a physical object, a chalice, or a hidden relic? Is it a codified system of knowledge, a map of secret wisdom, or a philosophical allegory? Or is it all of these things simultaneously, layered across time to challenge those who would seek it? The tension between certainty and speculation keeps the legend alive, drawing modern researchers and casual enthusiasts alike into a pursuit that is as intellectual as it is imaginative. Every clue discovered, every symbol decoded, every tale retold adds a new layer to the cultural resonance of the Grail, ensuring that its presence is never truly lost, only transformed. In contemplating the Grail, one begins to understand why the legend has persisted so powerfully. It is not merely an artifact of history. It is a living symbol, a mirror reflecting humanity's perennial quest for meaning, understanding, and transcendence. The Templars, through their alleged guardianship, ensured that this symbol would endure, its lessons encoded in art, architecture, literature, and ritual. Even as the Order vanished from public view, the Grail remained, quietly shaping culture and thought, its influence felt in subtle, almost imperceptible ways that continue to ripple through time. Ultimately, the Grail reminds us that some treasures are not measured in gold or jewels, but in their ability to inspire, to challenge, and to endure. Its legacy is both concrete and ethereal, a bridge between history and myth, the material and the spiritual, the known and the hidden. In this way, the Grail remains a profound symbol of the Templars' world, a reflection of their mysteries, and a whisper across the centuries, inviting each generation to seek, to question, and perhaps, in the process, to discover something of themselves along the way. The moment of revelation, when centuries of whispers and hidden signs converge, is both exhilarating and unnerving. The Templar treasure, shrouded in myth, legend, and secrecy, has been the focus of countless quests, yet its precise nature remains tantalizingly elusive. What if the treasure was never merely gold, silver, or jewels, but something far more profound? The clues left behind, the encoded symbols, the hidden chambers, the manuscripts preserved against time, suggest that the Templars' legacy was designed to be discovered gradually, not through force or greed, but through patience, insight, and understanding. It is a treasure measured not in material wealth, but in the power of knowledge, the depth of wisdom, and the connection to a lineage that spans centuries. Accounts from modern researchers hint at locations where fragments of this treasure may have been hidden, preserved behind centuries of concealment. Some speak of underground vaults beneath remote chapels in France, their entrances cleverly disguised behind false walls or beneath stone floors. Others reference isolated castles, long abandoned, where secret chambers have survived through deliberate obscurity, accessible only to those who can interpret the Templars' intricate system of signs and symbols. Even the catacombs beneath European cities are thought to conceal relics and manuscripts, protected by an almost supernatural alignment of geometry, architecture, and symbolism. The treasure is everywhere and nowhere, a puzzle spread across history and geography, waiting for the right mind to piece it together. The Templar treasure, as many theorists now believe, was not just gold or silver. Among the hidden riches were sacred relics, possibly including fragments of the true cross, carefully preserved chalices, and objects imbued with symbolic significance, tools of ritual and enlightenment. These items, each one an artifact of faith and devotion, carry stories that intertwine with the very roots of medieval Christendom. The idea that the Templars could have amassed and hidden such treasures is compelling enough. Yet it is the combination of physical relics with esoteric knowledge that elevates the legend to something extraordinary. This is a treasure that is as intellectual and spiritual as it is material, reflecting a worldview in which sacred wisdom and worldly power are inseparable. Many explorers describe the experience of uncovering these hidden artifacts as transformative. It is not simply the thrill of discovery, but the sense that one is touching something that has persisted through centuries, preserved against persecution, fire, and decay. Every manuscript, every carved emblem, every hidden compartment is a connection across time, a silent communication from those who understood the stakes of knowledge and the necessity of secrecy. The Templars' foresight in safeguarding their treasure ensures that it is not merely found. It is earned through perseverance, insight, and a willingness to engage with layers of history, symbolism, and hidden meaning. The Grail itself, the centerpiece of the Templar mystery, is often described not merely as a physical object, but as the culmination of the Order's wisdom. Some legends suggest it was a chalice of remarkable craftsmanship, imbued with religious significance, while others argue it may have been a metaphorical or symbolic key to knowledge. Manuscripts hint at rituals, astronomical alignments, and meditative practices associated with the Grail, suggesting that its true power lies not in its form, but in the understanding it conveys to those who approach it with reverence and insight. The Grail is simultaneously treasure and teaching, object and philosophy, mystery and revelation, a pinnacle of the Templars' long-term vision. Accounts of those who claim to have glimpsed fragments of the treasure describe a sense of awe, as if stepping into a space where time itself is suspended. The air is thick with history, dust, and the weight of centuries, yet it carries a quiet invitation to explore, to interpret, and to learn. In these moments, the treasure is more than a collection of objects. It is an experience, a dialogue between the seeker and the order that has long since faded from view. Every symbol, every relic, every hidden passage becomes part of a story that has waited patiently for discovery, blending suspense, revelation, and the profound satisfaction of understanding that one is not merely witnessing history, but participating in it. Yet even in these climactic discoveries, the Templars' design is apparent. The treasure is never fully revealed at once. It is fragmented, distributed across multiple locations, encoded in complex systems that require careful study and interpretation. This deliberate dispersal ensures that the treasure remains protected, accessible only to those who can demonstrate the combination of knowledge, intuition, and integrity that the Order valued above all else. It is a safeguard against misuse, a method of preserving the sacredness of what was entrusted to them, and a testament to the meticulous planning that characterized the Templars' secret operations. Beyond the physical treasure lies the greatest prize: understanding. Scholars and seekers who have dedicated years, sometimes decades, to tracing the Templars' legacy report that the process itself transforms the individual. Decoding symbols, interpreting manuscripts, and navigating hidden chambers cultivates patience, observation, and insight. It mirrors the medieval quests described in the Arthurian legends. The journey itself becomes the reward, teaching the seeker lessons about perseverance, morality, and the subtleties of human history. The treasure, in this sense, is both a destination and a path, blending adventure, scholarship, and spiritual engagement into a singular, transcendent pursuit. Modern technology has further enhanced the ability to locate and interpret fragments of the treasure. Ground-penetrating radar, 3D mapping, and digital reconstruction allow researchers to visualize hidden chambers, assess architectural anomalies, and analyze manuscripts in unprecedented detail. Yet despite these tools, the fundamental challenge remains the same: understanding the Templars' methods, symbols, and intentions. Technology can reveal hidden doors or structural peculiarities, but it cannot teach the intuition, historical knowledge, and ethical discernment required to truly engage with the Order's legacy. In this way, the Templar treasure continues to test the seeker, just as it did centuries ago. Ultimately, the climactic revelation of the Templar treasure is not a simple story of discovery. It is a complex, layered encounter with history, symbolism, and mystery. Gold and relics may exist, but they are inseparable from the knowledge, philosophy, and hidden wisdom encoded in every artifact, every inscription, and every passageway. To uncover the treasure is to touch a lineage of secrecy and devotion, to experience the echoes of an order that shaped medieval Europe and whose influence persists subtly, even in the present. It is a revelation that is at once tangible and intangible, a fusion of myth, history, and enduring human curiosity. And so, the Templar treasure remains a testament to the enduring power of secrecy, foresight, and knowledge. It reminds us that some mysteries are designed not merely to be solved, but to be experienced, interpreted, and respected. The Order's careful preservation of these treasures, both physical and intellectual, ensures that the pursuit of truth is never merely transactional. It is an invitation to engage with history in a profound way, to walk in the footsteps of those who came before, and to glimpse, however fleetingly, the depth of understanding that the Templars safeguarded with their lives. As the echoes of centuries of mystery settle, one is left to contemplate the full scope of the Templars' legacy. The treasure they guarded, whether physical, symbolic, or both, was never merely about gold or relics. It was a manifestation of a worldview, an intricate system of knowledge, faith, and secrecy carefully preserved through time. The Grail, hidden vaults, cryptic manuscripts, and symbols scattered across Europe were all pieces of a puzzle designed not just to be found, but to be understood by those willing to engage with the deeper currents of history, morality, and human potential. In this light, the Templars were not simply knights, but custodians of a philosophy that bridged the material and the spiritual, the earthly and the transcendent. The pursuit of the Grail and Templar treasures teaches a timeless lesson. Some treasures are as much about the journey as the destination. Modern explorers, historians, and enthusiasts retracing the Templars' path experience not only the thrill of discovery, but the weight of centuries-old secrecy. Every symbol decoded, every hidden chamber explored, and every manuscript studied becomes a conversation with the past, revealing insights not only into the order itself, but also into the values, fears, and aspirations of the people who created these enduring mysteries. The pursuit, in essence, transforms the seeker, instilling patience, discernment, and a reverence for knowledge that is both fragile and powerful. Across Europe, whispers of Templar influence persist. Cathedrals, castles, and monasteries bear the subtle imprints of an order that has long vanished from public view, yet continues to shape culture and imagination. Symbols once thought decorative now reveal layers of meaning. Hidden chambers, once sealed and forgotten, whisper of secrets that may never be fully uncovered. Even today, the pursuit of these mysteries fosters a dialogue between past and present, suggesting that the Templars' mission was not simply about hiding treasure, but about preserving knowledge, guarding wisdom, and inspiring future generations to seek understanding in both the seen and unseen realms. Perhaps the greatest legacy of the Templars lies in the Grail itself, a symbol that transcends materiality to embody the enduring human quest for meaning. Its power is subtle yet profound, a catalyst for contemplation, moral reflection, and the pursuit of higher truths. The Grail reminds us that some of the most valuable treasures are not measured in gold, jewels, or relics, but in the transformative insight they provide. In this sense, the Templars' true gift was not a hidden vault, but a challenge. To approach history with curiosity, to interpret the signs left behind, and to understand that knowledge, once uncovered, carries responsibility, humility, and the potential to shape one's perception of the world. Even as the centuries pass, the Grail's influence permeates art, literature, architecture, and culture. Medieval manuscripts, Renaissance paintings, and Gothic cathedrals all bear traces of its symbolism. Writers, filmmakers, and artists continue to draw inspiration from its mystery, demonstrating that the legend is far more than a historical curiosity. It is a cultural force, an archetype of aspiration, purity, and revelation. The Templars' connection to the Grail underscores this duality. The treasure is both tangible and intangible, historical and mythical, material and spiritual, challenging seekers to recognize the breadth of its significance and the depth of the mystery it represents. The Templars' emphasis on secrecy and protection also serves as a cautionary tale. Knowledge, power, and wisdom carry consequences. The Order's collapse, sudden and dramatic, illustrates the dangers faced by those who hold secrets that challenge authority. At the same time, their foresight in encoding their legacy ensured that these secrets could survive, scattered but intact, for those patient and perceptive enough to discover them. In this way, the Templar story is a meditation on the balance between concealment and revelation, reminding us that the preservation of knowledge often requires both courage and discretion. In reflecting on the centuries of pursuit, discovery, and speculation, one begins to appreciate the profound subtlety of the Templars' design. They understood that the Grail and their treasure would not merely be objects of curiosity, but instruments to shape thought, inspire exploration, and test character. The clues they left, symbols, architectural markers, manuscripts, and rituals, invite engagement, demanding more than simple observation. They require a willingness to think critically, to connect disparate threads, and to respect the balance between knowledge and responsibility. Those who approach this legacy with reverence find themselves participating in a continuum, tracing paths laid centuries ago by minds both meticulous and visionary. Even for those who never physically encounter the Grail or the Templar treasure, the pursuit holds transformative potential. The story itself, of knights, secret codes, vanished orders, and hidden knowledge, invites reflection on the nature of history, the interplay of power and secrecy, and humanity's enduring fascination with mystery. In this way, the Templars' treasures, whether material or symbolic, continue to influence minds and imaginations, offering lessons about resilience, foresight, and the profound allure of the unknown. The treasure, in essence, is a mirror, reflecting both the past and the values, desires, and aspirations of those who seek it. The whispers of the Grail and the Templar treasure also remind us that history is rarely linear or complete. Every discovery, every interpretation, and every speculation adds a layer to a story that is never fully resolved. The Templars' influence extends beyond dates, battles, and decrees. It survives in the questions they provoke, the symbols they left, and the mysteries that continue to engage us. The legacy is dynamic, living in the minds of seekers, historians, and dreamers who continue to explore the intersections of faith, knowledge, and power, guided by the faint but persistent whispers of a vanished order.